What up, party people? It's your girl Ellie B coming at you live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It is January 26th. Let's dive into what's been happening the last couple weeks. Woo! So, as many of you know, we left off last time with my wonderful trip to Egypt with my cousins and my uncle and Robert. So, let's dive into what's been happening. I don't know if you heard that, but I just whacked my knee. Let's dive into what's been happening since then. First off, you're thinking to yourself, I know it, you're thinking to yourself, why is Ellie B wearing glasses? And I'll answer your question, whoever you are, all of you. These are blue light glasses because as a writer, I am on the computer the whole day and I take Spanish lessons on the computer and I have my meetings on the computer. So my eyeballs are like wigging out. For those of you who don't know that my mom likes to read as well, we get something, even on paper, we get something called reader's eye, like when we're reading a print book. And it's because our eyes are so fast that we don't even blink. And so that gets all red and like terrible. So to combat reader's eye, especially like with the blue lights and stuff, I had these blue light glasses, had some doctor, optometrist, whatever the eye doctors are, in Dubai in the Ray-Ban store, tell me I had an astigmatism in my right eye, which is not surprising. Honest to God, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's why. He's like, you look at a screen all the time? And Robert was like, does she? Like, yeah, that's my job. So here we are. These fun glasses. I have several other options. I've got these like clear, nerdy looking ones, but these look kind of weird. So I'm sticking to these. Robert wears the black version of these for work because we're trying to avoid him getting an astigmatism. So anyway, yes, that's the answer to that question. Glasses. Next question. Ellie B, what have you been up to? Let me tell you. So I got back from Egypt, right? I had to go do like a fitting for the movie that I was in as scientist number 2. And so I go to the fitting at this like hotel and the people were like, here, try on these outfits that are supposed to like look science-y. I'm like, sure. So one was like a pair of blue jeans, and because they'd asked me like my sizes. So it was a pair of blue jeans and then like a collared, like button-down flannel almost, because it was like plaid, with like a sweatshirt over it. And the jeans were like, they barely fit. Like I'm like a 26, they were like a 25 minus a quarter, right? Like they were like, if I ate anything, these jeans were not fitting. So I was like, oh, they're okay. And they're like, all right, we'll take a picture. And then the next one were these like brown, like linen cargo pants with like another button down over like a graphic tee or something. And those pants were like 5 sizes too big. So I was like kind of holding the waist. I'm like, I might need a belt or like, I don't know, a different size because they're like a 32. And I'm like, I didn't say that, so these must be someone else's. So I took a picture of that, and they're like, all right, we'll let you know, like, just make sure when you come on, because that was like a Sunday, and it was like, when you come next Sunday, just make sure you like bring your glasses. And I'm like, of course, every scientist wears glasses. So the week goes on, nothing really happens other than like I go back to my improv class, which I love, and I got coffee with a girl named Dahlia in my improv class. And she was like, oh, I'm in this group, like Riyadh Writers, like you should come because, you know, you like to write. And I was like, sure. Because nobody really asked me what I do, right? They just assume I do something, or nothing. So she's like, oh, do you write? I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. Like, I've written some books. And she's like, oh, cool. Like, you should come to the Riyadh, like Writers in Riyadh. I'm like, sure. Because she was hosting like a lecture kind of thing on like editing and formatting. Or no, editing and feedback. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come support you. So that was the next week. So then we met up again at improv on Saturday. So I was like fitting on Sunday, meeting with Dahlia on like Wednesday, improv on Saturday, and then on Sunday, like the 12th of January or something, was shoot day. So I roll up in my like traditional, like what I wear all the time, black jean, like cuffed jeans, like mom jeans, my t-shirt that says like girls will be girls, and it's like a painting, a Renaissance painting of like women beheading a man. And then my like denim jacket and my glasses, obviously. And I'd like kind of blown out my hair and put on like base makeup. And I get there and they do my makeup and they like make sure my hair looks good and they like have this little brush, my glasses. And then I like go into costuming and they were like, you're probably fine. I was like, oh no, like I'm supposed to be a scientist. And they're like, yeah, you're good. I'm like, my shirt has like blood on it. And they're like, it's fine. Okay. So then and mind you, this is at 5 p.m. It's time, like it starts at 5 p.m. Originally, it was supposed to be like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they texted and they were like, I hope it's okay, but we've moved timings from 9 to 7 to 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. And I was like, I love that. Like, yay, lucky me. So I get there, we do hair, makeup, whatever. We go upstairs, and the people, like one of the guys is someone from improv, and then another one's from my compound. So like I kind of know them enough to where like I can talk to them and hang out. And so we do the whole scene, and then we do it from another angle. And so I mean, really, it is a long time on our feet, and I'm on my feet the whole time. It's like my hips start hurting. I'm like, oh my god, I feel like an 85-year-old woman. Like I can barely stand up, which I was probably insulting to like my grandmother, who's I don't know, close to that, and she's like perfectly fine. So maybe I'm like a 95-year-old woman. I am creaking and crackling. Maybe I'm 100 years old. I saw this thing, minor sidebar. I saw this thing that was like, oh, like biologically I'm 29, but mentally I'm 12, but physically my body died in the Civil War. Like, I'm like, that's how I feel, right? I've got a very childish mind. I'm just a 29, well, almost 29-year-old, but like, physically, my body is like hanging on by a thread. Anywho, so I do the shoot, whatever. They were like, hey, what do you want for dinner? What flavor? Cheese, meat, pepperoni, sausage. I was going, I'm sorry, what flavor of what? And they're like, it's like bread with like cheese and sauce. And I was like a pizza? And they're like, no, it's like a circle with cheese on top and some red sauce. And I was like, so like a pizza? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay, okay. So then I was like, I guess I just want cheese. And they're like, great. Well, all the other people, like who picked meat or whatever, really did get a pizza. I got like this like weird Arab cheese quesadilla. And I say Arab because it wasn't like a tortilla quesadilla. It was like sesame bread, like Arab falafel bread, or almost like a Euro bread with like cheese in it. It was very strange, but I was like, honestly, I'm so hungry. I could eat all of this. So I just like was like funneling it into my mouth. But the shoot was good. I had a speaking line, and then they accidentally let one of the guys go early who had a speaking line later in the thing. So then they gave me another speaking line. So your girl's famous. I got paid some good money to have my 2 speaking lines, and I did get a costume change because I'm that cool and that famous. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm famous. I was like texting, like, guys, I'm so famous right now. And then I ended up taking the guy who lived in my compound. I brought him back to our compound together. And he was cool, and I was like, hey, if you know of any more movies, like, I can be the token white girl. Like, I'm okay with that. And he was laughing. He's like, yeah, you should tell people that. I'm like, I will. So, yes, that was that. Then so I keep having my writers group through all this, by the way. And one of my friends had a baby. Her name is Robin. Her baby is adorable. His name is Maximus, and I'm obsessed with him, and he's an angel, so yes. And, you know, like Grace Hannah, I told you guys, Grace Hannah had her baby, Henry Price Drake. Love him. Obsessed. I sent him a gift from Egypt because I'm like, I'm in charge. Like, I'm sure it has godparents when he gets baptized. He'll have like, you know, Emily or like Suge or someone. I don't think they understand. I have nominated myself as its really fun aunt. It's really fun godmother that like pops in and out of his life with gifts and like fun stories. So like I am the non-official official. I've decided this for them, by the way. Like they don't get a choice. This is how it works. Ask Emily Perkins. I'm obsessed with her baby as well, and they get all the treats. So your bud gets everything he wants. So, and I've only met him once. And I haven't met Henry yet, but listen. My angel. He's so cute with his little fingers. Okay, back to the story. So then, the next week, I go to the, like, book thing. My friend Dahlia was like, oh, my editing and feedback. So I go. Wasn't really my cup of tea because I have a hard time receiving, like, feedback I can receive from anyone about my books because anybody could read my books. And it's helpful to know, like, people who don't read the genre, like, what they think, or like, people who do read the genre, what they think. But editing, I don't really want someone who's, like, a scientist editing my fantasy novel. That's not helpful, right? Like, you can give feedback on, like, I don't understand this portion, or, like, these words are confusing, but editing is specific to genre specific. So the workshop for me, I was a little like, I think it should be more on feedback than on editing, because, like, peer edits, these aren't my peers, because we're not in the same field. So, but I ended up having to go also because it ran like 45 minutes late, like over. And I was like, it is late, y'all. And traffic is like the name of the game in Saudi, in Riyadh. So I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I ended up going home. But it was okay. And I got to read one of my poems, like one of the only poems I've ever written. I got to read it. So I'm like, okay, well, at least I got to read it out loud, like practicing my public speaking skills. And some of these people are really good. Like the girl who's in charge of everything, her name's Lubna. She's so good. Like, hers was all about, like, herself, and, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was incredible. Anywho, oh no, lady, I was doing so good. Rats. Anywho, without the on. The Lubna, the main girl, not my friend Dahlia, but Lubna, the one who's like in charge of Riders of Riyadh, she like created it, I think a year and a half ago. So she messaged me afterwards and was like, "Hey, how'd you like it? What's your feedback?" And so we were talking about how like I think it should have just been about feedback instead of editing, or like split in half because it was pretty long for just 2 hours. She was like, "Oh, I totally agree." And then she was like, "How often do you write?" We have like a subgroup of people who get together to write. I was like, "Actually, I write every day because that's my job." Because nobody had asked me what I do, and so like I just didn't tell anybody. I was like, I wasn't gonna be like, "Oh, as a writer, as someone with a master's of literature and a master's at teaching, someone who's TEFL certified and has a certification in creative writing." Like, nah. I was just being like, "Yeah, I like to write, sure." I'm like, poetry's not my thing, but I don't know what they thought my thing was. If I was like, "Oh, no, really, I'm not here for poetry," because like they're all poets. Oh no, it's happening again. Okay. And so she was like, "Oh, how often do you write?" And I'm like, "Oh, actually, that's like my job. I write every day. I have a writer's group. We meet like 3 times a week," which is with Robin, with her baby. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, what?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "What, have you published anything?" I'm like, "Actually, yes, I've published 2 books." And she was like, "What?" So I sent them to her. She's like, "These look amazing." I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah, they are." To be humble, of course. How everyone in the world describes me, Ellie Brantley equals humility. Like if you look up humble in the dictionary, my name, top of the list, which is what like literally no one has ever said. That's probably my hubris. But there's a loud car. Anyway, she was like, "Wow, this is amazing. Do you want to join our subgroup of like actual writers?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" So then she adds me to this other group, and they have like meetings on like every other Wednesday where they like read. Well, they follow a prompt, and I don't write for a prompt because I'm trying to write novels, right? Like they're all kind of doing poetry or like an essay based on the prompt. I don't do that. I'm like, ah. So she was like, "This is the prompt. It's on a path to," and I was like, I don't really write on prompts. And she was like, "Just come read part of your book." I'm like, that feels weird because it's a prompted thing. I don't want to just come and be like, "I disregarded the instructions." She's like, no. Like, we'd love to have you. We'd love for you to read your book. Like, please. I was like, "Okay, I'll come." So I rolled up. I must say, one of the guys, his poem started. Remember, the prompt is on a path to. His poem started. I wouldn't necessarily call falling down a flight of stairs a path, but here we are. And I was like, snaps all around, off to a fantastic start. And so then I read my piece, and so I kind of gave an explanation of like, yeah, I'm a writer. I do fantasy novels. I've got 3 series in my brains. I've published 2. I'm working on book 3, but I'm also working on like this smaller duology, Emperor's Assassin. And they were like, "Okay." So then I read, for those of you who haven't read my book, I'm sorry, I'm about to ruin a piece, the part where Callan like realizes he loves Laura. So like Laura realizes that like the feeling she's feeling in her chest is like safety and like home and happiness, and she hasn't felt those things before, not really. And so she's like, it's her perspective, and she's like laughing with her friends, and she's like with people that care for her. And so she feels like she's at home, and the little voice in her head is like, "This is what home is." And she like doesn't ignore the little voice. And then it switches to Callan's point of view, and he hears her laugh for the first time. Like he sees her smile, and he's like, "Wow, I love that." And then he hears her laugh, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my entire life." And so he like talks about, or he thinks to himself how like if her laugh was wine, he wants to just stay drunk. Like he just wants to constantly be drinking it in, and like he'll do anything for her to keep laughing and smiling at him. And then it's just really poetic, and it's really sweet. And it's one of my favorite things about him is that he falls in love with her not for her looks or for just like her raw power, but because like when she's happy and he hears her laugh, he realizes that like she's the most stunning creature in the world. Anyway, so I read that, and they were all like drooling. The girls were, at least. And so then we had like a whole little romantic discussion. And so it was really nice because I think some of them ended up probably buying it. And then afterwards, well, excuse me, I like went to the bathroom and I came back out, and this guy who sounded American was like, "Oh yeah, they're like white rats, but bigger and scary and bad." And I was like, "Are you talking about a possum?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, possums aren't bad. Possums can't carry rabies, and they're territorial, so they'll kill any bad snakes." And he was like, "Yeah, but they're scary looking." And I was like, "Well, yeah, they've got a lot of teeth, and they like smile to hear, but they're not bad." And he was like, "Yeah, well, where I'm from, like, there's a lot." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, me too." I said, "I had one that lived in my trash can named Fred and my Herbie Kirby for like a month, and we kept feeding him, and then it rained one time, and he drowned, and then my friends and I dissected him in the backyard." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Don't worry, my dad gave me permission." And they were like, "To do what?" And feed it? And I was like, "No, dissect it in the backyard." And they're like, "Why would you do that?" Like, I'd never seen the inside of an animal other than a deer, so it was kind of cool to see like the smaller. It wasn't like defiling it. And then the guy was like, everyone was like kind of freaking out, and the guy was like, wait, where are you from? And I was like, I'm from South Carolina, and he was like, guys, don't worry, this is a normal thing. I was like, I don't know if I should be insulted or like, thank you for backing me up. I was like, wait, where are you from? And he's like, oh, I'm from upstate New York. I was like, oh, like you've seen a possum, okay. And then I was like, guys, you don't understand. My dog brought me like 3 possum as a gift, and they were like, what? I was like, yeah, the mama possum was a bad mama possum, like my dog. And they're like a hunting dog, like a Labrador. I was like, no, like a wiener dog. And yes, she's a hunting dog, traditionally bred for rabbits. But yeah, my wiener dog was like, I'll get you a possum. You need a possum? Great, I got 3. Anyway, so it was really good. I think I'll probably go back. But afterwards, Lubna texted me. She was like, thank you so much for coming. Like, may I ask a favor of you? And I was like, yeah, girl, what's up? Like, I got time. Not really, but sure. Oh no, a third. Okay. So I'm like, yeah, what's up? And she asked if I would do a lecture, like a series of lectures, 4 or 5, on like the writing process and like publishing. So like it would start with like the idea and outlining, moving to like world building and dialogue, and then to like resources, and then to like publishing on KDP or whatever. And I was like, absolutely, because, you know, I love to talk in general. I like to public speak, for starters. I like to teach, because my job. And also, I very much, like, I want people to get their stories heard. Like, I believe that it's important. If you feel like you have a story or thoughts or feelings, it's important to get it out there. So, starting February 16th, I start my first lecture. Like, talk, I guess. I don't know. I'm saying a lecture series. It's like a series of writing workshops. But it's on, like, the beginnings, like, how to start a book, kind of basically. So I'm excited. I have like different topics, like different titles in mind, but I'm gonna let her pick them. I like put them all in a Google Doc and was like, you just tell me which one you like better, because I want it to be kind of catchy, you know. So anyway, I'm doing that in February, and then she and I were like messaging, and she was like, okay, like, can I ask another favor? And I'm like, honestly, at this point, girl, you're helping me career-wise, so please, what else do you need? And she said, we did last year. We did this like panel, and this like conference, and these panel of like artists, and then we did writers, and then we did, you know, these like whatever else, musicians. She's like, would you mind being, she said, we only have one other person who's published, also self-published, in the group. Would you mind being on a panel with her at our conference for authors? Like, would you mind leading it and like being one of the panelists? And I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, it's just like, it's about an hour and a half long. Like, there's about 150 people that go. Ask questions. You'll give like a little talk about your books and the journey you're on of writing. Like, would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, girl. Again, love to talk. So I can tell you about my books for hours on end. And she's like, oh, wonderful. Okay, I'll schedule. So now I'm like, might be doing a seminar or like / a panel. I don't know. I'm like, okay, yeah, girl, tell me more. So I'm very excited. Professional development. Whoop, whoop. I don't know if you guys just heard that, but I have an email. I also got an email. I got an email that was like, hey, what kind of table do you want? And I was like, what? And then I like had to go back, and I realized I signed up for a book event, like a book fair. It's called World Fantasy Con, like conference, like months ago, and I missed the email that said like I got accepted to do it. So I'm like, what? So I had to go back and look, and so in August I'm going to, I think, Georgia. In September I'm coming in for Maryland, and then in October / early November I'll be in Brighton, UK, for different like book festivals and stuff. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of merchandise like to sell with my books. I might get my cousin Brooks to do like bookmarks, you know, with like dragons on them or something, or maybe I can do it on Canva. I don't know. I gotta decide. But I'm excited because that's like 3 festivals where I can like sell my books and like kind of sell myself. So hopefully, and I've entered a bunch more contests and like scholarship opportunities, and I have like just basically cold called, but texting, like DMing book talkers and bookstagrammers, like reviewers, and being like, please read my book, please. But someone actually reached out to me. I had been looking at this girl's page because she like does book giveaways and reviews and stuff. But it was like the requirements for her to do your book and to like review it is it like it has to have like 40 reviews on Amazon, and I only have 30. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just, I'll follow her to keep up. But until I have 40, I'm kind of useless to her. And so then she messaged me after I followed her and was like, hey, I noticed you followed me. So I started looking at your page, and like, your book looks really good. I'd love to read it. Like, what, would you like to join some of our giveaways or whatever? And I was like, oh, yeah, but like, I don't meet your requirements. I was actually looking at the giveaways, but I don't meet your requirements. And she was like, yeah, you have a 4.8 out of 5 on Amazon. I don't care if you don't have 40. Like, people really like your book, and I would love to talk about it. And I was like, girl, I would love to talk about it. Thank you. So that's me professionally, what I'm up to. Yesterday, I know we're pushing the 20-minute mark, so I'll wrap things up. But yesterday, all of our friends, no, yesterday? Was that yesterday? No, 2 days ago. Friday. Our friends and I gathered, and we went out to our friend Abir's farm, like family farm. It does figs and like these like raspberries, but not like a traditional raspberry, and honey, and I think dates as well. And they have sheepies, so for cheese and milks and lamb. And so we did this big hike up on top of this mountain. It's like one of her favorite places in Saudi. And then we like stayed and grilled out and went on a little day walk, like a stroll to this like really cool tree that grew like sideways in the earth, like over a crack. Then we went to a cave and we played games, and Robert and I did some like word challenges that like my family does. And then we like sat around the fire and ate some burgers and I made cupcakes, obviously. And then we went and like stargazed for a bit. And then we were home by like 1, and I was so pooped. I mean, absolutely pooped. But it was really good, and it was kind of the first time most of us, because we're missing a couple, but most of us could come together, like all but 2, and the group got to be together, and so we haven't done that since like Thanksgiving, and even then we were missing the same 2 people. So it was really nice to get to all be together, because some of us, 5 of us are going to Norway in the end of February, but the rest of them aren't. So like the big group activities are few and far between at this point, just because all of our lives are a bit different. But yeah, so did stuff with friends, doing stuff with friends this week probably. I have my friend Victor's wife, Yasmin. I guess Victor is Yasmin's husband. Yasmin is like hasn't started her job yet. So last week we got food and talked about like just, journeys of being married and life and all that stuff, expanding the family, all that jazz. And so then she still hasn't had her job hasn't started yet. So, and classic Saudi fashion. So we're getting lunch again on Wednesday. I'm like, oh, good, brunch friends, but like lunch. And I've been running because we have our 10K on my birthday. I'm running a 10K with our friends. Robert's calves have been like flaring up, so he's just gonna support. He's gonna like have a sign that's like, don't die. I was like determined to beat my friend Abir, the one whose farm it was, but yeah, I tried running the other day and was like, oh no, I'm basically going backwards compared to her. So I texted her, I was like, yeah, you're going to win. Just when you cross the finish line, just come and get me and pull me across too. She started laughing. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm training for that. That's in like 2 weekends. Robert will probably go to Dubai this weekend to see our friend Dan because he and his husband are coming in town. But I can't go because I don't have my freaking passport yet. But yeah, we've got a lot of travel coming up. I'll probably send out like an email update soon just because we do have a lot of travel coming up, and it's helpful that when people know when we're traveling so that it's not like a shock if we don't text or anything. Also, if you're trying to text me on my 803 number, you're not going to get anything because I'm on my Saudi number. If you need my Saudi number, ask my mom or the Hearts. They both sets of those people have my number. I'm obviously not going to tell you over YouTube because that's crazy. Crazy people are on YouTube. But if you need my Saudi number, ask a relative. They know. Or text Robert Hart on his American number, and he can tell you what my Saudi number is. So, yeah. But yeah, travel. We've got Norway in February. We're going to the Philippines at the end of March. I'm going with Mom to the UK. Actually, we get back from the Philippines, and like 5 days later, I go with Mom to the UK for our Scotland trip, like our London for a day and then Scotland trip. And then I go back home with her for Easter. I have my surgery April 21st on my hip. If you don't know about that, you're going to have to listen to another one, a previous vlog, because I'm pretty sure I broke it all down in a previous vlog. So, and then I'll be home for 4 weeks after that while I'm still on. I don't want to fly on crutches, and Robert would prefer me to do the like opening PT in America, which I think is smart. So we'll do opening PT in America. 4 weeks later, I'll come back to Saudi for like a week and a half, and then we'll meet Adam and the girls in Southeast Asia, so probably Vietnam, Thailand, and for like 10, 12 days, I think, and then we'll come back for like probably like a week, and then I'll pack up and go to Alicante again for 4 weeks, and then we have to come back, and we'll come back, and then I'll have in August like 14th-ish is the first book festival, and then there's September 27th is the second, and then October 30th is the third, so we've got a lot of stuff. We like took a break in January, even though we started it off in Egypt. We like took a break in January, and then we just decided just screw it. We're going back to every month having something to do, so lots of things going on. In the near future is just the race and then Norway, so that's what we're kind of gearing up for now. Our friend Abdullah is like, oh, I have warm clothes. I have a puffer. And I'm like, what about like layers? Do you have like a sweater? It's like, nah, I've got a long sleeve t-shirt. I'm like, that's not warm. You need like a thermal layer. It's going to be like 20 degrees. So we'll see. But I'm excited. We're going to feed reindeer and all that jazz. I'll probably do one more between now and Norway, another vlog, between now and Norway, just to talk about the 5K and my birthday and all that. And then Norway. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm almost 29. Robert's almost 30. That's us. If I think of anything else, I'll add it. Thanks for watching.